We are here with Sensational Seth to talk about his cousin Seth Rollins and his kind of monstrous opponent, some would say, Bronson Reed. Who are you more into right now leading into this match, Seth Rollins or Bronson Reed?
Bronson Reed?
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Listen, so it's funny you should ask because I was thinking about this on the drive home tonight. I'm like, Seth freaking Rollins is great and all, but I'm kind of intrigued on where they're going with Bronson Reed.
Yeah.
Is he going to be mauling down more people, or is this just a quick little deal for him? I don't know. I kind of intrigued to see who else he's going to beat up.
Yeah, I think that he's in a really good spot for what his trajectory in
Yeah,
his career is. He's kind of kicking his coverage, in my opinion.
I
I
think
think
so.
they've done a really, really good job with him since returning.
Yeah.
Looks like a presence, looks like a monster, and they're
Hmm.
kind of really going in with that. I think the Strowman feud was smart
Hmm.
coming out of destroying Seth, and like the push is a little bit out of nowhere, but it's really not because he was kind of like, what do I have to do to break through that glass ceiling? And they've done a really good job of kind of setting him up to do so. Strowman's the perfect legacy monster to kind of to pass the torch to, and the hurt doesn't look hurt, the loss to him doesn't really hurt him. And then with Seth returning, transitioning, and this is hot. I think it's a little wonky with the backstage on site kind of thing, but
Hmm.
overall it fits the vibe of what they've been doing with Bronson Reed. So I'm going to give him a pass on it. I'm actually really interested in. I don't know if I could pick a winner right now. Maybe we can convince each other either way.
I 100% agree with you, Ryan. Because here's the thing: it's like, where do you go from here? Uh, you know, I kind of don't want this to be a one-off match. I kind of like the idea of this maybe, like you said, it's a straight singles match. Maybe have this lead to something else down the road, kind of like what they did with CM Punk and Drew. Make this last over a couple of PLEs. I don't,
Yeah.
after all they've invested, I don't want to see this just be a one-off. Um, after the backstage brutality last night, who knows what's going to happen, where they're going with this. Seth's not healthy. Are they trying to give him an excuse? They're trying to make him seem a little more vulnerable. They trying to make it seem like he's really conquering, the Goliath right now? There's so many different ways they can go.
Well, Seth is such a bigger star,
Or
right? But
multi-time champion.
if he were to go out there and like lose or whatever, I think he could totally do it clean and totally be fine
Sure.
for whatever he's doing next.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to think Reed's a little vulnerable, but back-to-back feuds where he would kind of take a loss might kind of cut his legs off a little bit
A little bit.
trajectory-wise.
Because then
So I feel
because I was saying, 'cause then
that
he just becomes a guy that beats guys up, but then he can't win the big one either. So he
yeah,
kind of
that's
has
kind of what
to,
the push started with. Like
yeah.
he's like, I haven't won enough matches to kind of garner any attention from the higher ups, right? To
Hmm.
get that title match, I failed at the IC title. I'm nowhere near the world title. So now I'm just going to go out there and kind of target superstars and kind of cut their heads off and just be like a monstrous, low key chicken shit heel in a way. And I don't know. He's in an interesting spot. I could see. I don't think he has the charisma to be like a top guy, but I think Braun Strowman, like projection wise, I think he could fit himself in that slot long term, right?
I think so. And listen, you go back to his NXT days, right? I mean, he was a Triple H favorite the way he was always booked down
Yeah,
there. I mean, what was he? They were comparing him to Bam Bam Bigelow. So,
yeah. The way he, yeah, the diets, the way he moves,
yeah,
everything. Yeah, the look, all
yeah,
that.
I think the future is good for him. And that's why I could see him winning this match. Or I could even see a wonky ending that kind of leads to another match.
Yeah, I think that they should have more than this. There's so many Monday Night Raws leading
Yeah.
into the Netflix era that they could probably have one or two to fill some decent time there. Even though they're 2 hours, they're not as thirsty to continue feuds right within the 2 hour structure. But these guys should warrant more than this because it feels. I was a little surprised when it was put on this card.
Again, they've invested a lot into this. You know, They started this feud back the Monday after SummerSlam. So you're looking at the beginning of August.
Yeah, it's a great call. Yep.
All right. So this is they carried this injury out for the whole second half of the summer, into September, right? So now you've invested all this time into this. I can't see it just being a one-off. I think that there's got to be a little bit of a feud coming out of this. Where's Seth going after this? Let's say Seth wins, or he's not going back to Gunther.
No, pretty much Punk, you would assume, right? And
I think that's not going to be till that could be that's what's next on the horizon. But I think this is a great feud for him to keep him off to the side, because I don't think you're going to start that feud with CM Punk now. That's your WrestleMania feud, I would think.
You would think, or Rumble probably, but I think for sure, definitely WrestleMania season for that. So this is good filler, but
yeah,
is Reed the filler, or can Reed gain any momentum out of it? Because he has a hell of a lot of momentum going in it, but is that momentum just going to kind of fall into Seth Rollins' lap, not his lap? Now, what do you think his ceiling is? Do you think if his ceiling's like Gunther, where he's a monster heel, world champion, face of the company in a way, or is it kind of like
a Braun Strowman?
I think that's the middle. I was going to unfortunately say for Bronson Reed is Otis. He kind of finds himself low in the mid card in a tag team. And yes, they can play within his size, but he's just not that guy at that level.
I almost want to say that's kind of where he was, and now he's moved up.
I mean, he kind of wish he had Otis's push.
Right. I mean, Otis has got the charisma, but I mean, I think it's safe to say that Bronson Reed's higher on the food chain right now. I mean, he took out a major superstar,
No, for sure. He has more of a chance than an Otis did, right? Yes. Otis's push, so to speak, was more wonky than not. I'm just thinking of similar look, similar, in-ring types, guys like that at his level, right? From a optics standpoint, right? So I think he's closer to Gunther than Otis, just because Otis is so low.
I think so.
I feel like we keep saying, I think he can find himself in the Braun Strowman role, jobber to the stars,
or just beating people up even, I mean, I wouldn't even say job into the stars yet, but I mean, he could be a formidable mid-card guy that's going to, always be a presence. So it's going to be beating guys up, hurting guys, having those. He could be the backstage brawl guy. I mean, he could be your chaos agent of chaos on Monday Night Raw.
Who he could be if we're gonna harper back to the past? I think he could be easily in the Umaga slot.
I could see that. Sure thing. And an intercontinental champion, right?
Yep.
At the
called
highest.
Upon in big spots when needed. Yep. Ultimately, there is a gatekeeper to the main event. Always over heel, moves well, unique look.
Umaga was that monster who Vince McMahon used against Batista,
Lashley
right?
And Trump. Yep.
In the hair versus hair match. So I mean, that's definitely doable. I mean, he's a guy. They're clearly making him a hard to beat guy. He's I like this. I'd like to see the ceiling be high for him. I really don't want to see this just be a summer, a slow time of the year. Let's use him as filler. I really hope not. I like the backstage chaos. I like him, throwing guys around. I loved the other night, man, when he was, he just, Seth thought he had him and he didn't have him, man. It was almost like a horror flick-esque, where he
hard to kill. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you thought you killed Freddy Krueger and he's coming right back at you now, and I like that.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. So I think we've kind of given this its flowers in a way. I feel that could be a sneaky, very good match in this card, just because I don't want to say the bar is low, but it's not in a super high profile match. Of course, if Seth Rollins is on the marquee on a PLE, the sky is the limit because he can be tremendous. And Reed has been out there to proven that he is able to have also, quote unquote bangers, so to speak. So I have high hopes for this one, even though the bar is kind of low because it'll be match like 2 or 3 on a 7-match card.
And truth be told, I think the bar is a little higher. I mean, you think back to the last time Seth had a match that was similar to this on a Crown Jewel, and it was him and Omos.
Yeah,
And
and it outkicked its coverage. Yeah.
and that I think that might have been the one match for Omos, because he never really did anything after that. So
Yeah.
that's my fear. Like I said, I'm hoping that's not going to happen here, but I don't think it will.
No, I think they like Reed more than Omos.
Yeah.
He has a lot more depth as a
Yes.
character. There's a lot more depth in ring and so on and so to speak. But I always thought that Reed, last kind of question to you off the hip, I always thought Reed would find himself in a successful tag team. If you had lined someone up with Reed after this big push to kind of find him in a tag team off the top of your dome, who would you pick?
Ooh. That's a hard one.
Yeah, it's not.
Right.
He doesn't really fit with anyone, right?
He really doesn't. So, I mean, off the top of my head, I got to throw him with someone who's made tag team partners out of random tag team partners before, and that would be the Miz.
Oh, okay. I actually
Show
Beauty
Miz.
and Beauty and the Beast. Reed Miz. Reed Miz. Let's go,
Yes,
right?
Reed Miz. I mean, that'd be, again, you got a legit Hall of Famer, in there with him too. Adds a little credibility.
That actually kind of fits in a way, right?
Miz
I can see them.
Miz may need a bodyguard coming up pretty soon too. He needs a little protection from the Wyatts, and probably from the Final Testament as well, because they seem like they're not too happy with him either. So he's kind of.
I think you passed the test.
Yeah,
I think you passed the tag team partners test. I don't hate it, and I think it fits. But all right, Seth, we can find you with Retold and Lived with Richie Mars once in a while. Find you here. No, so we'll have to get you in the mix with some 80s stuff coming up.
I love it. Anytime, Rye, anytime.
All right, Seth, it was fun as always, and we'll see you next month, buddy.
All right, can't wait.